Are you ready? You wanna go for a walk? Wait. Okay. Let's go. Hey folks. It is Kai from Lure of the North, and most recently Alone, season 7. And I promised my friends and family that I would tell them the whole moose story that you guys got to see a little bit of. And rather than me telling it many times, I thought that it would be a good idea to just tell it once and refer people to the video so that they can hear it all. And I'm not making this video to defend myself, but I just wanted to tell the whole story because I think it's a really cool encounter that I had, and I'm going to remember it for the rest of my life. And yeah, I just want to tell the whole story because I think it was a pretty special moment for me. So we'll just start right from the beginning. Right now it's like over 30 degrees Celsius, and so I'm heading to the lake. There's a nice pine tree that I like to sit under, and I'm gonna jump in and go swimming. So take Hank for a little cool down session. So anyways, it actually all starts on day 1. I got dropped off at around, I don't know, 2 or 3 p.m. And the first thing that I wanted to do when Dave and I were talking strategy at home was to get my gill net out ASAP. So the first thing I did when I got dropped off that very same day is I started walking my land. I walked the entire shoreline. Took me about 3 or 4 hours to get back to where I was dropped off. And I was looking for a spot for my gill net. The unfortunate part was I didn't find a spot. Apart from that one spot that you saw I was at for my fish mesh. And it was about 3.5 kilometers away. I measured it, or about 3 kilometers away. I measured it on Google Maps, Google Earth. And to lug all of your camera gear and all of your equipment, over there for the prospect of fish at that point wasn't really worth it, because actually that spot was barren. So similar to Keith's rock point, that's what the whole far side of my property was like. And the way that they geofenced my area, it was like a big pie. So where they dropped me off was where I had most of my land allotted to me. It went back into the land beyond the shore where they dropped me off quite a ways. But where I was over for my fish mesh, it was maybe only 200 feet from the shore before I got buzzed. So it was my land allotment was a big pie, and it was quite barren over there. So I didn't think it was a great shelter location. And when I was dropped off, I loved my land immediately because it was open. I didn't want to feel really boxed in like people were on Vancouver Island. Like seeing Jim and Ted's spot on season 4 just looked claustrophobic to me, and I'm kind of the type of person that likes to have, you know, vistas and feel the breeze. And so it didn't seem like a good shelter spot, and so moving all of my gear just didn't seem right to me. However, I put it on my mental map. And the other thing that I saw while I was walking was this mud flat. And in this mud flat were fresh moose prints. And so I noted that spot and I said, great. If there aren't moose in my immediate area, this is where I will come for a hunting mission. And so when I was striking out with the fishing at my area, I decided to go on my fish mish. And I knew that it wasn't worth my energy to try and go there and back in a day. And so I figured if I could get 2 good fishing sessions out of the journey, and I did catch fish, then I could set up an outpost and, you know, spend a couple days there, get my fish, go back home, check my trap line, and, you know, make it work that way. So I did have my bow with anticipating camping out at that mud flat. And there was a big boulder, well, big, it just fit me behind it. And I went on my journey, got to the spot, and immediately went fishing. Came back in the early evening and started calling the moose. I had my arrow knocked, and my very first call, it responded. I couldn't believe it. It was just amazing. I am not a big game hunter. My husband is. He hunts bear and deer, but we never hunt moose. There's just not enough in our area for us to even consider getting a moose tag. We have moose at our pond, but there we kind of consider it like a moose sanctuary here because we, ooh, raspberry, yeah. I was actually gonna go raspberry picking today because I noticed on our driveway that they are coming out really nicely. So I'm not a big game hunter, but I brought my bow because if I had an opportunity and I didn't have my bow, I'd be killing myself. So I have my bow and have never called a moose before. I practiced before I left and felt like it was good enough to at least give it a go. And I knew also that I could hunt small game with my bow as well if a big game didn't have an opportunity for one. And so go ahead. And that was a big part of my strategy, was that I wanted to bring as many items as I could that would give me options for procuring food. So, deer fly. So the bow was one, snare wire, fishing, line and hooks, and my gill net. I brought all 4 of those items in hopes, or in knowing that my land probably wouldn't be offering me everything. So I figured, well, I'll cover my bases and hopefully one of those things at least will be helpful for me in procuring food. And my gill net was not one of them. Up until this point, I have I had deployed my gill net on day 3 in a spot where I thought, well, that's as good as it's gonna get. Set it way out as far as the poles would float, and it was still just dragging on the bottom, and anytime the wind would come up, it would just drag and twist and get all messed up. Oh, you gonna go swimming, Hanky? Go on, go swimming. Hey, get out of there. Go on. No. Nope. This is normally his spot where he likes to go in. This isn't my swimming spot, so we're gonna keep going. Oh, that stinks. Come on. Beaver poop, or otter, really otter poop. Whew, that smells. So my gill net didn't go out, and I was striking out with my bank lines and fishing. I almost caught a seagull once, but no fish. So the fish mish, yeah, back to calling the moose. So we were chatting back and forth. I could not believe it. It was so amazing. My heart was thumping, but I felt really calm. I was behind the boulder, and it was just pacing back and forth all night. And yeah, you could hear it going, ooh, ooh. It was incredible. And so I was just waiting for an opportunity. It started getting dark, and I made the decision not to continue calling it after I decided it was going to be too dark to take a shot. And I didn't want to be tracking a moose at night. I know that that's very common for hunters to track at night, especially because the blood shows up nicely with a flashlight. But it being such a big animal and not having a hunting party to call on, I just didn't want to risk losing the animal and then have shot and killed something or injured it and not be able to find it. So I made the call and put my bow away, went to sleep. First thing in the morning before the sunrise, I started calling the moose again, and I didn't get a response at all. And I was calling and calling and calling, and decided, so no response. And since it was calling, you know, the night prior, I was a bit surprised that it wasn't calling back. Good boy. So I specifically remember looking at the camera as it's recording and making that bold choice to remove my arm guard and leave my bow at my little campsite there, because we had this big huge camera with a big tripod, and it was a cold morning, so I had my down jacket, my down pants, you know, all my safety gear, and I just wanted to get to my fishing spot, try my fishing, and then get back to that spot and call for the moose again. I'm just gonna put this down. So I looked at the camera just like this, and I just thought, like, okay, I'm making this decision. It could be a mistake, but I need to just travel light and fast. And so that's what I did, and went fishing, struck out, and I was just talking about calling that moose in again. I was on my way back. Oh, it's hot. I was on my way back, and there's the moose right there. And you know, of course, I'm thinking, why didn't I have my bow? Why didn't I have my bow? Of course, should have brought my bow. But it was about 100 meters away. And I was just about to go back to call that freaking moose. And, you know, maybe I should have just abandoned the fish mish and just, you know, went on to focusing on the moose, because, you know, if I was an experienced hunter, maybe I would have known that it was going to come back. But I didn't, and that's okay. And so after the moose just started walking into the water, I called it back, as you saw. I called it back twice, and so I thought that was pretty cool. And it was coming back, but you know, me just running through the bush to try and get to my bow, I think was just enough spook for it to just say, you know what, this isn't worth it. And that's where it ends, is me, you know, being disappointed. But that being said, I mean, it was such an amazing experience, and gosh, I've never been that close to a moose before, and to have actually called it in was pretty special for me. And so even though it looks like I was bummed out about it, I was just really excited and thankful for the experience. Good boy, Hank. Just chilling. That's his way of cooling off. I think some other things that would be considered is that we don't know what would happen if I did shoot that moose. As I said, I am an inexperienced big game hunter, and so I don't know. And even if you were an experienced big game hunter, you don't know the personality or the fight or flight of a big game like that. If I had a shot it may have decided that its best course of action was to go into that water, and then, you know, it could have died halfway across, and then what? You know, that just would have been a real big issue. And then of course I could have missed, or I could have had a shot and then it charged me, because there was not much between me and it, and you know, there was thick brush behind me, a big rock behind me. So, you know, we don't know what would have happened in that respect if I did shoot it. So even though it looks like a big mistake, it was an amazing experience, and I was really happy to have had it. So I hope you, you know, knowing the whole story, maybe it doesn't mean anything to you, but at least now you know the whole story. And yeah, I hope you enjoy watching the rest of the show and seeing what other shenanigans we all get up to. And thanks for watching, and if you liked hearing about kind of more to the story, let me know in the comments. And you know, if you've got any questions I can clarify for you, or if there's another video that you'd like to see, let me know. Thanks, and see you next time.